most coaches won't go there because it's uncomfortable. But I told myself from the very beginning, if I'm not risking the relationship in every conversation, I'm overpaid, because a broken commitment is a cry for help. So if I'm not delivering on my commitment, I'm screaming saying, Adam, hey, my boss, Adam, please talk to me. Please talk to me. My broken commitment is a cry for help. I need help.
So let me just start with this, man. Most coaching is bullshit. Welcome to Start With a Win, where we unpack leadership, personal growth and development, and how to build a better business. Let's go. Coming to you from Area 15 Ventures and Start With a Win headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Well, get ready, because today we've got a real expert who can help us crack the code of leadership coaching. We're talking about Adrian Koehler, the founder of Take New Ground, a global executive coaching and training firm. This guy isn't just talking theories. He's in the trenches coaching everyone from executives to entrepreneurs in the art and science of leadership. And get this, his client list includes some heavy hitters like Nike, the US Navy SEALs, and even Virgin Hyperloop One. With a background that's about as diverse as it gets, think philanthropy, ministry, activism, and even medicine, Adrian thrives in tough environments and isn't afraid of the difficult conversations. So buckle up, because Adrian is here to give us the no bullshit truth about leadership and coaching. Adrian, welcome to Start With a Win.
Oh man, so excited to be here, Adam.
Awesome. Hey, I mean, this is going to be a fun conversation because you and I have a lot of similar thoughts on this whole coaching and executive leadership development and things like that part. You've participated with a lot of amazing companies, Navy SEALs, not really a company, but some amazing people, and Nike and, Hyperloop One, things like that. But you and I share this philosophy about coaching, and we're going to blow up some of the norms today. So let me just start with this, man. Most coaching is bullshit. Let's dig in there. First thing that comes to mind when I say that, what do you think?
That's like, first thing is, I've heard that before. Oh yeah, that's on the top. That's the top banner of my website. And why would it be? Why would it be?
Right.
It's like, I've been doing this for this way, I guess, for about 15 years. And let's see, the bowl is never empty. That's what they say. Okay. Meaning, like, you're always in some thought about something. Or anytime I'm starting some kind of training, I'm with an executive team for a couple of days, I'm like, hey, by the way, you already think you know what this is because you've gone to an offsite before. And so same thing with thinking about coaching. They think about coaches. Everybody's got some kind of experience. And they probably don't like the person, or they were unimpressed by the person, or the person was, not gutsy, or just like, there to sell something. And, or at the same point, like, most coaches are just there to kind of try to encourage people into the next phase of their life. And that's great. I would say, like, in my 20s and 30s, championing people would have been probably the theme. That, like, who am I with other people? I'm a champion for them. But I realized that's really, for me, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's fascinating when, some of these things you're starting to unpack here, because you're like, you show up at this corporate coaching event, and the first thing you're going to do is a team building event. And then you're going to meet each other, and then you're going to be vulnerable with each other. And then you're going to, like, have this breakthrough moment. But you're starting to already a little bit unpack something. At least feels like a little bit different to me. Right.
Oh yeah. Even that, it's not always a great experience, I would say, for people that come to an executive offsite with me, because I don't follow that model at all. I have always talked to them before we get in the room. I've done usually some kind of leadership assessment. We use this thing called the Harrison, which illuminates tensions therein. But I use that to kind of get to the conversations they're up until now have been unwilling to have, and the results that are being generated by their resistance to claim current reality. And so I know, walking in, if I got 6 people, there's 6 very different ideas about what's happening, and sometimes 6 very different ideas about where things need to go. So I actually don't start with any kind of icebreakers, stuff like that. I actually start with, I spend a couple hours setting up the context, we say. So, meaning, like, hey, I want you to think about how you're thinking. And people don't do that. They just think that what they're thinking is thinking. Meaning, like, that I'm not, like, relating to the world in such a way that it impacts my experience. and it impacts who I am, quote unquote, and it impacts what's possible. That my relationship, my perception of things is the thing that it is. This might be too weird, but the way that I'm relating to the thing actually generates how I am in the world. So most folks aren't in that conversation. They just think, oh, I'm Adam, or hey, I'm Adrian. That's who I am. Because Freud convinces of that, instead of, oh no, I'm making choices that generate my experience. And from that experience that I make up, I don't think I've made it up. I think it's happening. And that is what is possible. So I spend some time, much more articulate than that, slower than that, of course. I'm giving some bullet points here because I know your audience is smart. I spend time setting that up before I'm going to bring the hammer. Because I know that I know the conversations that need to happen. And I've always obviously get hired by the heavy in the room, the CEO in the room. I know where he or she wants things to go. I know his or her view of the dynamics in the room. So I'm going to slowly set the room up to crack the room open. And then I have nothing to do except for to sit back and watch where people are and have a conversation about that first, instead of teaching something. People always want to buy, some level of content because they think that makes them smarter. But obviously they don't want to know that. Otherwise they'd already know it. So anywho.
Well, I mean, let's dig into that a little bit, because it seems like, okay, the CEO has you come into the room because they're sick of the, let's just call it what it is, the bullshit of everybody sitting in the room trying to deliver what they think the CEO wants.
Sure.
Which generally isn't what the CEO wants, it seems. I don't know. I mean, you tell me.
Well,
does the CEO need a head check also?
Always. This is how I'm annoying to people, is I just say whatever's happening is actually what you want to have happening. Why? Especially if you're a smart CEO, and they're all smart and they're all educated and they're all ambitious. It's more like, hey, this has been happening. And I'll just ask, how long has it been going on that way? He's like, oh man, this has been going on for 5 years. And I'll say, I wonder why you like it. I'll say, what? I don't like it. I don't like it. Well, I don't know. If anything, I just assert anything you don't want in your life, it leaves. So let's entertain the idea that although you tell yourself you don't like it, there's something maybe even unseen to you, some kind of payoff you get for the dysfunction that you've been tolerating. Can we just explore that for a second? Why you like the fact that Tom, that's been the, chief revenue officer and underperforming for 2 years, why you haven't fired him? Why do you like keeping Tom around? And he'll say, blah, blah, blah. So everybody's on the hook, at least in my room. Like we're just, personal responsibility is the only source of freedom.
I like that.
People don't usually go there. They usually go to circumstances generate my reality instead of I either create it or allow it.
Sounds like a locus of control problem.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I wouldn't call it a problem. I would call it a locus of control conversation. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
it's like as soon as we call something wrong, bad, or broken, we don't look at it.
Right.
Because if something's bad, and I think I'm good, and we all have a pretty self-flattering view. If I think I'm smart and able, and then this thing is bad, and it's on my watch, I don't want to look at it. So if it's a locus of control issue, for sure, let's explore it, man. Let's just say we lie to ourselves, because we do. I cut my teeth in this business. I hired a guy that had been doing this named Dan Tacchini. He's almost 70 years old now. His first coaching company, when he started, his coaching company was called, wait for it, The Coaching Company. Wow. He's early. He came out of the human potential movement in the 70s. And Dan is the GOAT. You put him in a room with 30 people, I'm telling you, it's Mozart. As soon as I got to see him work, I was like, oh my God. I mean, the nerd that I am, because I'm like, the possibility of influencing people for their benefit, that's just been my jam as long as I can remember. And I hired Dan to come in, and because I just started this private foundation, this, rich kid that I helped, and he wanted to start giving his money away. Long story short, he wanted to work in the prison system. I'll miss all the details here for the sake of time. Met Dan, hired Dan. And therefore Dan was a employee of mine, but a mentor of mine. And we worked in the prison system. We were doing 3-day leadership trainings with murderers, all lifers. And a mantra in that world was, we're all criminals, and some of us are just more arrestable than others. And that's the truth in my view everywhere, meaning we're all full of shit at some level. Like who lies to themselves, who's not who they want to be, who, cuts themselves short, who doesn't keep their word. When I say criminal, I just mean we don't live our word.
Right.
And if we can just get over that, the horror of that I'm not who I, think I am and not who I want you to think I am, and stop playing a game of, can I impress Adam? Can I just be here as a real human being? Then life happens. Otherwise, we're just doing some kind of persona thing. So anytime I'm in a room, back to your, with a CEO, it's like he might be telling me, can you come solve the issues? And I'm going to say, well, first off, if we don't get to the fact that you have created a system by which these issues persist, then it doesn't matter what I do. Because if we work up a new, whatever set of vision and values in the same type of thinking that created the dysfunction, the new stuff will be the old stuff soon enough. So don't waste your time with me. We got to reset the context. We got to reset the soil in which reality is being formed, and results are being formed, and patterns are being formed. So anyway, they're all on the hook.
Okay.
Me too.
This is fascinating. You use a term, radical authenticity. Is it where you're digging with this? Is that the direction? Okay. I love it. Sure. I mean, how about, let's be freaking honest with ourselves, folks.
Yeah.
Hold up the mirror, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, whenever, and that's how I, have ended up generating the type of, work and the great people I've gotten to work with and that's why most coaching is bullshit, because people want to put icing on a shit sandwich. And I'm like, no. Let's figure out, can we just look at the shit sandwich for a second? I mean,
right.
One of the companies you mentioned in the hello, the intro part, I remember I was called in because the founder was a quote unquote a problem, which happens a ton. Somebody,
right.
Private equity firm, board member, somebody, can you come work with, Joe Schmo? And I remember sitting down with this guy who I've been working with for several years. And just, 20 minutes in, this guy is world-class engineer, world-class. And people had been spending a lot of time dancing around him. But the point being, I sit down with him, and, by probably 20 minutes in, he's weeping because, he says to me, I'm killing my baby. I'm killing this company. I'm like, yeah, you are. Do you want to stop? Or do you want to just, keep with the stories you're living in that give you the justification that how you've been showing up is necessary? Because if you want to do that, we don't have a conversation to have. But if you want to disrupt yourself and do the radical authenticity, it's like, any problems in my life I'm generating. That's a tough thing. I mean, most people don't want to live that out, which I get it. It's a tough thing to believe. Even just a couple of days ago, talking with an old friend about his marriage. He's a very successful guy, and he's complaining about his, wife and the issues they're having. And I just said, well, what if your thoughts and feelings have nothing to do with her? Like, let's just say your experience is what you're generating. Now, that's a pretty risky belief because there's no out, there's no escape. And I've ended up working with tons of elite folks and mostly athletes, to be honest, because they like the hill. They like that hill to climb, because they don't feel good about blaming someone else. I mean, it's on the surface level, relieving, but at a deep level, guys like yourself, guys like myself that like to take on a challenge. If I'm blaming somebody else, I'm not the guy that I want to be for me. Right. So it's a big hill to climb. Most coaches won't go there because it's uncomfortable. But I told myself from the very beginning, if I'm not risking the relationship in every conversation, I'm overpaid.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, realistically, that's what you should ask for from a coach. What's a coach supposed to do? They're supposed to push you beyond where you're comfortable.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So what do you see in, let's talk about is there an average in the leadership gap where you're seeing, it's typically Does it start with that external locus of control, or that I'm blaming everybody else for my problems, or I'm unwilling to live to my potential or to admit to my issues? Is that generally where you're seeing things start, or is there something particular that you're seeing repeatedly, patterns in businesses in this day and age that are the challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, where things start, because we've always been just referral-based company. We've never marketed at all. And, we get clients from clients.
Right.
Where things start is something's not working. Unfortunately, they call us in when, we do call it like the shit sandwich principle, where problems come to you as a shit hors d'oeuvre.
You've got it all over their face by now. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, problems come as a shit hors d'oeuvre. Who wants to deal with that, right? So X isn't happening, missed quarterly meetings. This guy's disconnected. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Send that back. But issues come back as a shit sandwich. And who wants to eat that? So you send that, and then here comes a 2-course meal. And then all of a sudden you've got a shit buffet and things are bad. And now it's actually very, very complicated. And everybody's complicit. So that's where things start. And I think to your question, what's happening behind the scenes is people would prefer to double down on vision and not double down on like a sober view of current reality.
Right.
Because if we talk about what's actually happening, if we talk about the relationships that are happening and the thinking behind the relationships, that's so much more vulnerable. So, where do things start? Things always start with we're not getting the outcomes we want, and we're trying to find a place to blame it.
Mm-hmm.
And blame, shame, and credit will never generate a new future, period. So that's usually where people are. They're like trying to figure it out instead of explore it, which that distinction might not make sense to folks. I mean, when I say explore it, I wonder how I have helped generate whatever's here. If that makes sense. If I can be, it's it's Tom's fault. Well, I don't know. How many conversations, so Tom is blowing it now. I used to have a client named Tom, and he hated the fact that I always use Tom as my go-to, problem child. But anyway, so let's say Tom is blowing it now. I'll ask a leader, when did you start seeing it happen? Let's say this isn't the beginning. This isn't an anomaly, but it is the result of the way you've related to Tom up until now. So let's be honest. How many conversations did you know that you quote unquote should, or as a responsible leader ought to have, for the sake of shareholder value, for the sake of your own integrity, for the sake of the relationship with Tom? How many didn't you have? Oh man, a couple. Really? Just a couple? Let's talk through it. But why do that? Because if you're not willing to account in that way, then that type of accounting is coming back, right? So however you're relating is the future anyway. So that's usually the context. That's a big, weird answer to your question. Not kind of, but it's always a thinking issue. That's why people get annoyed, because they want us to talk strategy with them, which we will. And strategy is important, but everything comes back to relating for us. Either how the relationships are happening on the team, but for sure, how you're relating to reality, like what I'm making up about reality. For example, you and I are on this podcast right now. It seems like we're on one podcast, but we're not. You're on what you think is happening. I'm on what I think is happening. We talked about, hey, you asked me, hey, have some short answers. And I'm thinking, I'm not having short answers. Right. So I'm in that conversation, stop. So anyway, we're in our own versions of what's happening.
Yeah.
And whatever we're committed to shapes what that is. So
I love that. Let me ask you this. When I do, and I did a presentation on leadership, I call it a group coaching, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago for some major leaders in a large government organization. And one of the questions I always ask when I'm in the room after we've had probably 30, 45 minutes of discussion about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the challenges of the business, things like that, is I stop and I go, how many of you know somebody who needs to be fired right now? And what's interesting, Adrian, is pretty much every hand in the room goes up.
Sure.
Why are those people sitting on that knowledge and not taking action as a leader?
I'm editing my first answer.
You've seen it too, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. Well, the kind of edited for TV version is they're just cowards. They're just, meaning they don't want the trouble and and they're also on the hook at some level. And there's some vulnerability to have the conversation with the person, because if that person's honest, especially if they go out of nowhere and fire the person, if I'm that person, I'm like, hey, how long have you seen this? How long have you known this? Why is this the first time? Let me give some people some slack. Is this type of, it's called intervention. This type of leadership, people don't learn in business school.
Right.
And they don't practice in their own life. They learn how to run great spreadsheets. They're not taught how to have an intervening conversation in a way that'll generate some breakthrough for the other person.
Right.
For several reasons. That's a whole 3-hour conversation about why I might not do that. But first off, that's it. And we're also busy. We talk about the 4 survival needs, which are looking good, feeling good, being right, and being in control. So it's also strategically beneficial to have a problem child around, so that if I'm not generating results, I can tag it on that person. They're never going to say that. But they also give themselves credit for being like a nice person. Oh, I'm just going to keep giving the person some slack. So they get to be superior to that person. Like having a problem child around, there's so many payoffs to that. Like behind the scenes payoffs. Like, I get to look good because I'm not firing him because I know his wife and his kids and what would he do next and all this. I get to seem all altruistic and then I have to pick up the slack for him, and I get to play the martyr, and then I get to utilize that to not do any kind of new endeavors because I don't have time, and I'm so there's like so many
there's
so
a lot
many
to unpack. Lot to unpack.
Well, so many conversations in the context, but what's not happening is an honest dialogue with oneself about what am I here to get done? Like the aim. What am I here to get done? Or if I work for, a big organization, what am I paid to get done? And am I willing to actually own that as if that's the stand that I am? That's a weird philosophical way of saying it, but I think of it that way, meaning like I'm paid to do this and this is a part of me. It's not like work-life balance. Like, okay, that's just what the work I'm doing. And then this is who I am on this. No. What if I actually am my word, and things that show up that are contrary to that bother me in such a way that at least I'll go inquire about it. Like, hey, this thing isn't working. This guy's not performing. Most people think they have to have an answer instead of having the right question. Because if you were to I always say, current reality is always looking for a spokesperson. So like if, let's say I was your problem employee and you came to me and I was blowing it and you're just like, hey, Adrian, I've noticed over the last 3 months, your numbers have been going down. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Can we talk about it? And I'll probably be defensive and all that. But if I can get the fact that you are relentlessly committed to results and deeply committed to me as a human, that conversation moves. Because a broken commitment is a cry for help. So if I'm not delivering on my commitment, I'm screaming saying, Adam, hey, my boss, Adam, please talk to me. Please talk to me. My broken commitment is a cry for help. I need help. And especially with dudes in particular, I know this for myself, is that I always need more help than I want. Always. I need more help than I want. I think I'm going to get like an extra star on the board if I could do it by myself instead of thinking about life in the context of team. So all that's going on in the background. But at the end of the day, they're just cowards, just like all of us. There's things we're not dealing with. And, that's why for me, courage is like the antidote to most of life's trouble. It's not answers. It's not strategies. It's not new ideas. It's courage.
It seems like
to face it.
It seems like that might be one of the largest leadership gaps then, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Well, it's because it's one of the biggest human gaps. I mean, what's the distinction? There's not much distinction between the low level employee and the leader, except for what's at stake. And so things are just amplified, right? So if I'm just, the guy on the assembly line, there's not a lot of fear. Why? Because if I mess something up, I might get away with it and, whatever. But if I am running a company and it's, vulnerable, like I played football in college, and I'll always assert that corner is the toughest position on the field. By the way, I was a corner. Why? Because you're out there by yourself. It's like, if I mess it up, if I don't catch this guy when he runs a post corner, if I don't give him a shove and then do whatever it takes, everybody in the entire stands will know whose fault it is that the guy's in the end zone. Nobody else. I'm on the hook.
Right.
Right. So, it's just human. It's just human. We prefer to do what it takes not to lose instead of wonder who I could become to fully win.
I like that. And it takes courage.
That's a big distinction. It takes courage. Yeah. It takes courage to venture.
So what?
Right. To question, even for successful people like yourself or any of our clients we work with, to give up on to not lean on the persona that people love and make myself vulnerable, question myself, dare to reinvent myself to continue to transform. That takes energy. It takes calories. It takes humility. It takes feedback. It takes, vulnerability with other people. That's what people want. It's just, there's a huge price for it.
And it's amazing. And the price is emotional, it seems.
Yeah. Well, it is emotional.
It's like it's ego. It's ego.
Yeah.
It's like you're taking off a piece of your ego and handing it off to somebody, right?
Yes. Uh-huh. Well, it questions some core beliefs about who am I? That question everybody is swimming in. Some are aware of it, some of them aren't. And if your listeners are looking for some kind of book recommendation, you might do this kind of stuff often. One of my favorite books is a book called The Courage to be Disliked. Now, if you've been listening and you realize how brash I might be, you think, oh, this is why this guy likes his book. That's not actually what the book's about. It's like good to go be a jerk somewhere. They're like, duh, Adrian, of course you like that. No, the book is about, it's actually a survey of Freudian psychology versus Adlerian psychology. So Freud convinced the world, they were compatriots at the same time. Freud got all the ink because Freud wrote about the human psyche in a way that is in alignment with the victim mindset, I would say. Meaning, Freud said we are etiological. Like, I am the effect, something else is the cause, right? External locus of control.
Yep.
That's why almost all therapy is Freudian. Like, oh, well, you have authority issues. Well, what was your relationship like with your father? So start when you were 4.
Yeah, blame.
That's just what people do. So then there could be some great resource for that. Cool. I mean, I made a lot of money juxtaposing me versus therapists early in my career. But there could be some discovery there. That's cool. But there's just no life there.
Right.
Because now I'm just trying not to be my dad. So anyway, that's Freud. And then, but Adler, his theory was called teleological, which is I am what I'm committed to. Now that's a whole different conversation. Because no matter what happened yesterday, I could be committed to something new today. And all of a sudden, I'm reborn. And I'm sure your listeners love Jordan Peterson. He talks about this a lot, that your aim in life naturally generates the hierarchy of concerns.
Right.
So if my main aim is looking good in front of my peers or not losing my job or impressing blah, 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 that will set up what I'm concerned about. And other things might not, right? So to your point, if I think that who Adrian is very precious, and I can't dare to not be what I think I should be or want to be, then I'm like, I'm skating on thin ice my whole life. Instead of saying, oh man, I'm a mess at times. I'm a mixed bag, man. I am like the most altruistic guy, and I'm the most self-serving guy. I'm very honest, and I lie like a dog. I'm very hardworking, and I'm really lazy. All those things can happen. You know why? Because they do. And I'm not concerned about the fact that at times those things show up in my life. Like I remember feeling guilty even in college. I'd like take a nap and I would hope people wouldn't know I was taking a nap.
Why is that?
Because,
Because you were intense and on all the time?
In my mind, I was just like, oh man, if I'm taking a nap, am I lazy?
Right.
Adler's got this other great thing we used to talk about in prison all the time. We used to call it life sentences, but he calls them life lies. That all of us have some kind of deep, from your identity concern.
Right.
The thing I don't want to be. And if we don't watch it, so I've got a couple. One of them is that I'm lazy. Now I'm like if you watch my life, people that talk to me about my pace and what I'm up to, they're tired just by looking at my calendar. But it doesn't matter. I am concerned that I'm not working hard enough. Or one of my bigger ones is like, oh, I'm dumb. I'm not smart enough. Now, I coach world-class minds. I speak on stages like yourself. I put stuff out and people say it changes their life. But for me, there's a conversation back here, from a long time ago that I'm not smart enough. And Adler said, if you don't watch it, we all live with these life lies and spend our lives trying to prove them wrong. So if somebody's not aware of we do this 4-day leadership training called the Revenant process, which I'm sure any of your listeners would love to come to because I get the way that you roll. And the purpose of that training, one of the statements in the purpose statement that we cover before in the ground rules is to illuminate the ideas that are governing our lives. So a lot of folks live out avoiding the fears that actually are a resource for them, because there's things they're scared of and they don't want to get close to them. We've forever, especially in the last few years, we've thought about, fear is bad. Well, I don't know. Let's just say fear is an invitation to a conversation you don't want to have. So why don't you, put your head right into it? And I wonder what's in there for me. And maybe what I'm most scared of is the biggest invitation to community, which I'm dying for. It's only lonely at the top because we've decided nobody else can handle I'm trying to get poetic with the words here, but everybody that's really that's smart, they're like really eccentric and really smart, and they're dysfunctional, and they don't want people to get close to them out of fear that if someone gets close, they'll, especially for dudes, I will lose their respect. So instead, it's lonely at the top, which we've decided is so I could be isolated and justified and nobody knows what it's like to be me, which the more honest thing is, I don't want anybody to know what it's like to be me.
Interesting.
A lot of assertions there, fun stuff to play with.
Yeah, totally. So Adrian, as we start to wrap this up, you've unpacked a lot of really self-reflection key pieces for leaders here, things that make people wonder.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah. I think you accomplished that for sure. Give me a key tip that you would tell leaders in order to, open this door a little easier. What can they think about as we start to wrap this up?
Yeah. Well, if you're a leader, thank you. First off, the world moves based on people that decide to step up and make a difference. So if you decided to be a leader, thank you. And we're recording this the day after Father's Day, which, man, I've just started to get emotional thinking about it. I just love dads. I love, I think the masculine spirit is essential in our culture, and we could do 5 hours on that, or I could anyway. I've got lots of ideas there. But if you're a leader, thank you. What would I say? First off, you're probably a leader because you're bothered. You want something to happen that's not happening now. And I would, invite you. There's so much common thinking that you ought not be too much. You ought to, soften things up. You ought to, in the name of empathy, which most people use empathy, and I think they don't even know what the word means. That when you tone yourself down, I would just ask you at least to have a space in your life, either with yourself or with a key friend, where you don't tone yourself down. You just let it rip. Like, what's really there for you? What's going on for you? I think especially men. There are conversations that you want to have, and probably conversations you want to have that you might think, I'm never going to get to have this before I die. And I would just say, at least for yourself, if that's in a journaling practice, or I would do it with a trusted friend, just because it's good to have somebody else in the conversation with you. Have some unfiltered conversation with somebody. And if you're hyper, solution focused, which I'm sure you are, Adam, I know I am. My business partner, Dan, that I talked about, when I was going through a divorce, he said, hey, you need to vent, man. Which was true. Why? Because I was always thinking about, okay, I'm pissed about this. Okay, how am I responsible? What can I do? And solve the problem. No, I need to get real with the conversations that are going on a few levels down. So in both ways, one for your own personal health and one for your own exploration of the future. Like, what do you dare not dream about? Because if you said it, you'd be on the hook and that whole thing. So have some unfiltered space. Long answer to that answer. Like, have some unfiltered space with yourself or somebody close to you.
Check out Adrian online, adriankoehler.com or adrian.k on Instagram, Adrian Koehler on LinkedIn. Also, make sure you check out this Take New Ground piece. I mean, that's pretty incredible, as well as your multi-day retreat. Also, Adrian does some really amazing leadership coaching. So reach out to him if you have some needs to actually fix your problems instead of just kind of tap dance around the room with another coach. So I really respect that out of a hardcore coach. Adrian, I have a question I ask all the great leaders on the show, and we all have a routine that gets us going in the day, sets our sights on where we need to, or maybe just clears our mind. So how do you start your day with a win?
Yeah, I've done it several different ways, and it keeps evolving. The way it happens for me now is when I get up, I have some kind of moment of pause. I come from a faith background. I mean, I'm a weird dude. I have a master's in theology, and I was a pastor for many years with all this other stuff I've been doing. So there's an aspect of me that's very like aspirational. And for me, I have to be connected to some kind of higher power, some kind of God, just because if I'm the most powerful thing in the universe, we're in trouble. So at least for me, right? Because then what am I going to do? Like depend on, government or something? Hello. So right. There's a moment of pause for me, of reflection, of gratitude. I've had at different times a whole gratitude practice of journaling and writing things down. Not doing that at the moment. I'm a cold plunge guy. So in my backyard, I've got a cold plunge, and I do that just because I don't want to do that. I get into it, and I'm sure there are, physiological benefits and all that, but I do it for psychological reasons. Just like, I don't want to do this. And you know what? Most humans won't. And I do want both things. I want to like overcome myself, and I do want to remind myself that I do very, very hard things. So that's a part of it. Depends on, I've got my kids half the time, and I go walk I've got a 90-pound golden doodle and my daughter who's 9. And I have a practice now of walking the dog together, which is just a beautiful, beautiful experience of like having very fun, engaging conversations with her. And then I reach out to the people that I care about most.
Awesome.
I've got people that I text every morning. Why? Because I need to be reminded that I'm not alone in the world. And there are people there, no matter what's going to happen today, what matters most is relationships. We know that even from all the research, like when people are on their deathbed, it's who's around the bed that matters, not what company did I build or what's in the bank account. So I just get connected to the people I care about the most.
That's amazing. Some great points there. Make sure you check out Adrian Koehler and go back and listen to this episode again. We started with most coaching is bullshit. And it's true because we don't get deep enough into reflecting upon these key aspects of truly finding ourselves in order to make a difference. So Adrian, thanks for all you do. Thanks for being on Start With a Win, and we'll catch you next time.
Amazing. Thanks for having me on, brother.